In my past life when the traffickers rushed toward us, I saved my brother and got taken instead. 15 years later, my biological parents found me, but I never got a single day of their love. My brother always walked arm in arm with Crystal. The fake daughter who framed me, he warned me coldly. My only sister will forever be Crystal, and just as he wished, still ended my life when I opened my eyes again. I was back to the day we met the traffickers. 6-year-old Ethan looked at me, panic written all over his face. Willow, save me, but this time I didn't rush over like I did before. Instead I replied coldly, see you in 15 years. Brother, after Ethan was taken by the traffickers, Mom and Dad were devastated. They put up missing person posters everywhere, TV stations, newspapers, offering huge rewards, but it was all useless. I remembered the family who bought me. In my past life they lived so far out in the countryside that it took half a day just to walk to the nearest town. Ethan's fate wouldn't be any better, sure. My parents were heartbroken. Right now the pain was overwhelming them, but it was fine. They would forget. Just like in my past life when they lost me, their real daughter. They were also devastated and couldn't go on later. Because they missed having a daughter so much, they adopted a girl. They poured all their love into that adopted daughter. Even after they found me, their biological daughter, it didn't shake her position in the family one bit. The most ridiculous part, when the adopted daughter got sick and needed a kidney transplant, they both got down on their knees and begged me, their real daughter, to give her my kidney. So nothing is irreplaceable, not even parents or children. Time flew by. It had been almost a year since Ethan disappeared. I kept telling my parents how lonely I was, how much I missed having a brother. Every time Mom would cry, she suggested to Dad, maybe we should adopt a boy. I had already guessed this would happen. So when they told me their decision, I said, can we adopt an older brother? Instead, I want someone who can take care of me. Their faces grew heavy, but they didn't object since we were adopting a brother. They needed my approval. They took me to many orphanages. We met lots of boys around the right age, but I wasn't satisfied with any of them. One day, we visited an orphanage in a remote area. The place looked pretty run down. After searching around and not finding who I was looking for, we were about to leave. The chubby director suggested, Mom, adopt a girl instead. Said they had a girl my age who was incredibly sweet, polite and smart. After weeks of exhausting searches, Mom was tired. She agreed to meet her. When the girl walked out, froze. It was her, Crystal Bennett, the adopted daughter my parents treasured like a precious jewel in my past life. She seemed just as shocked to see me. Her sweet smile turned into complete disbelief as she blurted out, how is this possible? We stared at each other. Mom frowned. Director Harper, is this the girl you were talking about? Director Harper looked embarrassed. Mrs. Wilson, I'm sorry. Crystal is probably just excited to meet you for the first time. Crystal, this is the CEO of Evergreen Corporation and his wife. Don't be rude. Crystal seemed to snap out of it. She quickly changed her expression, becoming careful and polite. Hello, sir. Ma'am, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be rude. Mom nodded and studied her carefully, then asked some questions. Crystal answered everything, perfectly, acting sweet and obedient. After the conversation, I could tell Mom liked her. Even Dad looked satisfied. But here's the thing. The person who held Crystal's fate in her hands right now, that was me. Willow Wilson. Willow, how about we bring this big sister home? Mom came over and spoke to me gently. No, the moment I said it, Crystal's face went pale. She looked at me with shock and desperation. Her lips parted as if she wanted to say something, but she held it in. My firm answer surprised Mom. She tried to convince me, actually, having an older sister might be nice. You two could wear matching dresses, do each other's hair, play hide and seek together. No, seeing I wouldn't budge, Mom gave up. She sighed. I'm sorry, Director Harper, we can't adopt this girl. It's fine, Mrs. Wilson. Director Harper said she understood. No, suddenly Crystal screamed and broke down. Why is this happening? Mom, it's me, Crystal. Dad, don't you recognize me? Mom and Dad jumped, completely confused. They had no idea what this girl was talking about. Crystal rushed over and hugged Mom tightly, tears streaming down her face, as if Mom would disappear any second. Mom, I've been waiting here for you and Dad for so long. Please take me home. I can't stand staying here another day. Where's Ethan? Why didn't he come? Mom was terrified by her bizarre words. She quickly pushed her away. Why are you calling me Mom? Are you mentally unstable? Crystal froze. She wiped her tears and tried to explain. No, Mom, I'm perfectly fine. In my past life, this is where you came and took me home. Everyone except me had no idea what she was talking about. Mom and Dad's expressions completely changed. Probably didn't expect Director Harper to recommend someone mentally unstable. Director Harper looked mortified. She quickly called for staff to take Crystal away. Crystal panicked. She kicked and fought the staff, struggling frantically. No, I'm not leaving. I want to go home with Mom and Dad. Get off me. I'm the real daughter of Evergreen Corporation. That woman is a fake. Mom, I'm your precious daughter. The two staff members dragged Crystal out forcefully. For a long time after, we could still hear her heartbreaking screams echoing through the courtyard. Mom was shaken. She grabbed my hand and rushed out. Willow, let's go. We can't stay here. There's an unstable person here. In my past life, she was the precious jewel in my mom's eyes. In this life, she became a mentally unstable person. Even I couldn't handle Mom's completely opposite attitudes, let alone Crystal talk about destroying someone's soul. Part 2. After 3 whole months of searching, I finally found Phoenix Sterling in an orphanage in the neighboring city. When the director brought me to him, he was fighting with a group of boys. His face was bruised when I was swollen and his arm was bleeding. Even though he was getting beaten badly, his eyes were stubborn and fierce like a little wolf. He refused to give up. My eyes instantly welled up with tears. In my past life, whenever other kids at the orphanage bullied me, he would fight them off just like this. Even if it was 1 against 10, even if he got beaten to a pulp, even if the director punished him by not letting him eat for 3 days, he would always comfort me in a carefree voice. Stop crying. Didn't I teach them a lesson for you? But they beat you up so badly. Doesn't it hurt? A little pain is nothing for a man. Don't worry, I promised I'd protect you, and I always keep my word. The little boy's strong words still echoed in my ears. Phoenix, this time it's my turn to protect you. When I told my parents I wanted to bring Phoenix home, they didn't understand clearly. They had already heard about his reputation from the other kids at the orphanage. But I didn't care. I insisted. They had no choice but to agree. And just like that, 8-year-old Phoenix Sterling came home with me. When he saw the Wilson family's luxurious living room, the dazzling crystal chandelier, the soft and expensive Persian rugs, he seemed tense. He instinctively hid his ragged sleeves behind his back. Why did you adopt me? I led him to a second floor bedroom and pulled open the thick curtains. The floor-to-ceiling windows were spacious and bright. Sunlight streamed through a ginkgo tree outside, casting dappled light across the room. I turned around and gave him a warm smile. Because in this life it's our turn to live a good life, of course. He didn't understand. He looked at me confused. Who's this? Phoenix pointed out a photo frame on the bookshelf. It was Ethan sitting in a toy car taken on his 6th birthday last year. Nobody. I picked up the frame and threw it in the trash without hesitation. I remembered how Ethan coldly told me in my past life that he would only ever recognize Crystal as his sister. Perfect. In this life I don't need him as a brother anyway. After a moment, Phoenix looked up at me again. His bright eyes held a hint of uncertainty and defiance. How long are you planning to keep me? 3 months or 6? As far as I knew, Phoenix had already been abandoned twice before. One couple adopted him purely for publicity, to boost their factory's reputation. After the newspapers hyped it up, they brought Phoenix home and then ignored him. Phoenix got beaten up every day by their fat son, turning black and blue, but just so he could go to school. Just so people wouldn't mock him for being an orphan without parents. At only 5 years old, he endured it all. Later, the fat kid got more violent and even pushed him down the stairs from the 2nd floor. Plus, the couple's factory went bankrupt, so they sent Phoenix back to the orphanage. Before leaving that house, Phoenix couldn't take it anymore. He fought back hard, hitting the fat kid until he cried. From that moment on, Phoenix realized that to avoid being bullied, only strength could solve everything. About 6 months later, Nex was adopted, again by a middle-aged couple who couldn't have children. This time was luckier. The couple wasn't wealthy, but they treated him decently at least. No one beat him up and he didn't have to live in constant fear. But the peaceful days didn't last long. The wife got pregnant. The couple barely thought twice before dumping Phoenix back at the orphanage. After that, Phoenix's heart died. He stopped hoping to be adopted. His temper grew worse. He got into fights constantly and he kept to himself. Until years later, when I showed up at the orphanage, 2 kids who were both outcasts gradually became friends. Remembering all this, I walked over to Phoenix and said seriously, not 3 months, not 6, you can stay in this home forever. Until you decide you want to leave. He stared at me without blinking. His dark bright eyes were like brilliant stars in the night sky. For a long time he said nothing. Although my parents initially objected to bringing Phoenix home, they quickly changed their tune. Nobody knew better than me how smart Phoenix was. After just 3 piano lessons, he could play an entire pop song from memory. After 2 months of chess lessons, his teacher couldn't beat him anymore. As for academics, but in 3rd grade he was already reading 5th grade math books. He never scored below 100 in English or any other subject. My parents' smiles came back, especially when they heard every teacher praise Phoenix endlessly. They invested in Phoenix's education. Just like they did for me, they signed him up for training classes he was interested in. They brought him to high society events, letting Phoenix mingle with other kids from wealthy and powerful families. Phoenix was strikingly handsome and academically exceptional. His personality was a bit aloof, but that was a minor flaw. Some influential people even started scheming for their daughters, discussing with my dad about becoming in-laws. Dad was secretly pleased, but he politely declined. After all, they were too young. From then on, my parents paid even more attention to Phoenix and became stricter with his education. His clothes, food, everything else were exactly the same as mine. Their biological daughter Phoenix and I became as close as we were in my past life. One day after school, a figure suddenly darted into the middle of the road. Our driver Oliver panicked and jerked the steering wheel. The car spun out of control toward the other side. Phoenix reacted instantly. He lunged over and held me tightly in his arms, and the car crashed into a roadside planter. Phoenix nervously checked my body. I let out a breath and shook my head. Thankfully, only the front of the car was damaged. All 3 of us were fine. Oliver's face went white. He angrily got out of the car only to find a little girl standing there. Oliver, it's me, Crystal Bennett. The air was thick with the smell of scorched rubber and damp earth. Crystal Bennett stood in the middle of the road, her frame skeletal, her clothes a collection of rags that hung off her like a shroud. Her eyes, however, were burning with a feverish, terrifying recognition. Oliver, the driver, was trembling with rage. You crazy brat. You almost got us killed. But Crystal wasn't looking at Oliver. She was staring through the cracked windshield at me. Or rather, she was staring at the boy shielding me. Phoenix, she whispered, her voice a jagged rasp. No. You're supposed to be a beggar. You're supposed to be the dog I kicked in the streets. Phoenix's grip on my shoulders tightened. He didn't know her, but he felt the malice radiating from her. To him, she was just another shadow trying to dim the sunlight I had given him. He stepped out of the car, his posture already carrying the weight of a man twice his age. Who are you? Phoenix asked, his voice cold. Crystal let out a hysterical laugh, pointing a gnarled finger at me. She's a monster, Phoenix. She let her own brother be taken. She's the reason Ethan is rotting in a hole while she lives in a palace. I stepped out behind Phoenix, my expression a mask of innocent confusion. Oliver, why is she saying those names? Who is Ethan? Inside, I was screaming with delight. The mental instability I had branded her with at the orphanage had followed her. She had spent the last year in a state-run facility for troubled youths, and clearly, the lack of silk sheets and gourmet meals had broken whatever remained of her sanity. Oliver sighed, his anger turning to pity. Don't listen to her, Miss Willow. She's that girl from the orphanage, the one who went mad. I'll call the police. No. Crystal screamed, lunging forward. Phoenix moved with the grace of a wolf, shoving her back into the dirt. Willow. I remember. I remember the kidney. I remember the hospital. You owe me your life. I leaned in close to her, so close that only she could hear my whisper over the idling engine. In the past life, Crystal, you took my parents, my brother, and my breath. In this life, I didn't even have to lift a finger. You destroyed yourself. Crystal's eyes dilated. She opened her mouth to shriek, but Oliver had already flagged down a passing patrol car. As they dragged her away, her screams of fake daughter and trafficker echoed through the trees. Phoenix watched the police car disappear. He turned to me, his eyes searching. Willow, do you know her? I reached out and brushed a stray lock of hair from his forehead. I know that she's a ghost, Phoenix. And ghosts can't hurt people who are actually alive. Time is a cruel mistress to those who wait, but a servant to those who plan. 12 years passed in a blur of luxury and academic brilliance. I became the crown jewel of the Wilson family, the perfect daughter, a prodigy in business, and the face of Evergreen Corporation's charitable wings. But Phoenix was the true miracle. He grew into a silent, lethal shadow. He handled the unseen side of the family business. If a rival tried to blackmail my father, Phoenix found their secrets first. If a suitor stayed too long at my door, Phoenix escorted them away with a look that promised violence. My parents adored him. He was the son they had lost, refined into a masterpiece of loyalty. Then came the morning of my 21st birthday, the 15-year anniversary of the day I let the traffickers take Ethan. I sat at the breakfast table, sipping tea. My mother, now silver-haired and elegant, was looking at a newspaper. Suddenly, she gasped, the silver spoon clattering against the china. Everett, look, she whispered to my father. The headline was small, buried in the back. Massive human trafficking ring busted in Northern Province. Survivors recovered. My heart didn't skip a beat. I had been tracking this raid for months. I was the anonymous tipster who had sent the coordinate data to the authorities. They found a boy. Mother sobbed, her hands shaking. A young man. He kept repeating our address. He said his name is Ethan Wilson. The room went silent. Phoenix, standing by the window, turned his gaze to me. His eyes were unreadable, but his hand moved instinctively to the pocket where he kept a small, obsidian knife, a gift I had given him years ago. We have to go, Father said, his voice thick with a decade of repressed guilt. Willow, Phoenix, get the car. The recovery center was a dismal place, smelling of antiseptic and despair. When we walked into the ward, my parents were already weeping. There, sitting on a cot, was a man who looked 60 despite being barely 21. His skin was the color of old parchment, covered in jagged scars. His fingers were gnarled from years of forced labor in the brick kilns. This was Ethan, the brother who, in another life, had told me I was nothing. The brother who had walked arm in arm with my killer. Ethan. Mother whispered, reaching out a trembling hand. The man flinched, drawing his knees to his chest. His eyes were wide, darting around the room like a trapped animal. Then his gaze landed on me. A flicker of recognition sparked in his dull eyes. A terrifying, ancient memory. Willow, he croaked. His voice was a ruined thing. You didn't save me. The room froze. My father turned to me, a frown marring his face. Willow, what does he mean? I didn't blink. I let a single, perfect tear fall down my cheek. He's confused, Dad. The trauma. He must be remembering the day he was taken. I tried to grab his hand, but the man was too strong. I've had nightmares about it for 15 years. Phoenix stepped forward, his presence towering and authoritative. The doctors said he has severe psychological damage. He might hallucinate. He might project his pain onto the people closest to him. My father nodded, his suspicion instantly replaced by a need to protect the perfect daughter he still had. But as my parents hugged the shivering, broken shell of Ethan, I felt a presence behind me. Crystal. She wasn't in rags this time. She was wearing a nurse's uniform. She had spent the last decade clawing her way out of the asylum, burying her past life, delusions deep enough to pass as sane. She had heard about the raid. She had positioned herself here, waiting for this exact moment. He isn't lying, is he, Willow? Crystal whispered, standing in the shadows of the hallway. I turned to her, a cold smile touching my lips. Still trying, Crystal? Look at him. He's a broken toy. And look at them. I gestured to my parents, who were already looking at Ethan's scars with a mixture of love and visible disgust. In the Wilson family, we valued beauty. We valued success. Ethan was a reminder of failure. He was an ugly blemish on our perfect life. We brought Ethan home, but it wasn't a reunion. It was a funeral for an idea. Ethan couldn't eat with silver forks. He preferred to huddle on the floor. He screamed in his sleep, waking the entire villa. He was terrified of Phoenix, who hovered over him like a silent executioner. One night, I found Ethan in the garden, staring at the trash can. He had pulled out the old photo frame, the one of his 6th birthday, that I had thrown away years ago. "You hated me," Ethan said, his voice steadier than usual. He looked at me, his eyes suddenly sharp with the clarity of the dying. "I remember now. Before the man took me. You looked at me. You said, 'See you in 15 years.'" I sat down on the marble bench, crossing my legs. "I did. And look at the timing, Ethan. I'm a woman of my word." Ethan shook. "Why? I was 6. I was your brother. In this life you were 6, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. In the last life, you were 25. You watched me die. You held the hand of the girl who pushed the needle into my arm. You told me I wasn't your sister." Ethan's jaw dropped. The sheer impossibility of my words broke him. He started to scream, a high-pitched, keening sound. My parents rushed out, followed by Phoenix. "He's attacking me," I cried, falling to the ground and scuffing my knees. Phoenix didn't hesitate. He tackled Ethan, pinning his frail body to the gravel. My father looked at Ethan with utter loathing. "I can't do this anymore," father groaned. "He's an animal. He's not my son. My son died 15 years ago." "Everett, no." Mother sobbed, but even her embrace was hesitant. That was the moment Crystal made her move. She burst through the garden gate, holding a stolen file from the orphanage. "She's the one," Crystal yelled, pointing at me. "I have the records." Willow searched for Phoenix Sterling specifically. She chose him to replace Ethan. "She's been planning this since she was 6. She's a reincarnated devil." My parents stared at the files. They looked at the dates, the searches I had conducted as a child, the coincidences that were too perfect to be true. The air grew cold. My mother looked at me, fear finally dawning in her eyes. "Willow, how did a 6-year-old find a boy in a neighboring city? How did you know his name was Phoenix?" I stood up, brushing the dirt from my silk dress. I didn't cry. I didn't plead. I looked at my parents, the people who in one life had traded my kidney for a stranger's smile. "I knew," I said, my voice ringing out like a bell, "because I loved this family more than God allowed. I knew Ethan would be taken, so I found you a better son. I knew Crystal would try to infiltrate us, so I cast her out. Everything I did to keep Evergreen Corporation in the hands of someone who actually deserves it." I looked at Phoenix. "Do you care, Phoenix? Do you care that I made you?" Phoenix walked over to me. He ignored my parents. He ignored the screaming Ethan and the triumphant Crystal. He knelt before me, taking my hand and kissing the knuckles. "You gave me a name," Phoenix said. "You gave me a life. If you are a devil, then I am your blade. I don't care about the past. I only care about the hand that feeds me." Crystal lunged at me with a letter opener she had hidden in her sleeve. "If I can't be the daughter, no one will." But she never reached me. Phoenix moved faster than the human I could follow. The obsidian knife I had given him flashed in the moonlight. Crystal slumped to the ground, her eyes wide, her precious jewel, dreams finally bleeding out into the Wilson garden. My parents collapsed in horror. The scandal, the blood, the truth. It was too much for their fragile, high society hearts. In the end, I didn't need to kill my parents. The shame did it for me. My father suffered a stroke that night. My mother followed him into a deep, pill-induced depression. Ethan was sent to a private, high-security sanitarium in the mountains, the kind of place people go to be forgotten. I stood in the boardroom of Evergreen Corporation, the city of my past life sprawling beneath me like a map of conquered territory. Phoenix stood behind me, his hand resting on the back of my chair. "The board has confirmed your appointment as CEO," Phoenix whispered. "The witnesses to the garden incident have been silenced. Crystal Bennett has been ruled a mentally ill intruder who killed herself in a fit of rage." I looked at my reflection in the window. I wasn't the girl who died in a basement anymore. I wasn't the girl who begged for a kidney. I was Willow Wilson. "Phoenix," I said. "Yes, Willow. Is there any news from the sanitarium?" "Ethan passed away this morning," Phoenix said, his voice devoid of emotion. He couldn't handle the isolation. He kept asking for a sister who didn't exist." I closed my eyes, feeling a strange, hollow peace. The debt was paid. The cycle was broken. "Good," I said. "Now let's go home. We have a life to live. And this time it's ours." Phoenix took my hand, his grip firm and warm. As we walked out of the building, the sun rose over the city, casting a long, golden shadow behind us. Two outcasts who had built a kingdom on the ashes of a world that didn't want them.